We will catch up with you a little later this morning on it. But also this morning, the Joint Economic Committee is going to be holding a hearing on the fiscal cliff. Can Congress rise above the partisan politics and come up with a compromise before this looming deadline later this month? JEC Chairman and Senator from Pennsylvania, Robert Casey, and JEC Vice Chairman and Congressman from Texas, Kevin Brady, both join us this morning. And gentlemen, thank you for being here. Obviously, you have a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. And Senator Casey, I'd like to start with you. I know that you have said that what we're watching right now is a lot of drama, and it's probably taking our eye off the ball in terms of what's really happening. Can you tell us if there's actually progress that's being made behind the scenes?
Well, I think there's a little bit too much attention paid to the back and forth every day. There's still a long way to go here, and frankly, a good bit of time to do it in. I think the day-by-day coverage sometimes misses what's really going to happen here. We're going to get some kind of an agreement, I sure hope, and I'm more optimistic maybe than some of the polling. But Democrats and Republicans have to come together. But at the end, it's not going to be 500 people in a room. It's going to be a small group of people making a deal and seeing if they can get support for it. That's the reality. I think the focus, though, gets a little bit lost down here. The focus should be, in addition to getting the fiscal sustainability in place, we've got to make sure that we're focused on job growth, moving the economy forward, and the central focus of that ought to be middle-income families.
Okay, agreed that those are the priorities for both sides. But Senator, when you say focus on the middle-income families, what does that mean? To cut through it, what exactly does a compromise to you look like?
Well, the first step, and this would be a substantial step forward, if the House would pass the bipartisan bill the Senate passed, a middle-class tax cut. We passed it in July. If they pass that, we're substantially down the road to getting an agreement. That's not the end of the work, but I think that would be a substantial benefit, give certainty to middle-income families.
Congressman Brady, is that likely to happen? Will the House pick up that bill and pass it?
Well, I have to tell you that I think the Senate yesterday was offered the chance to vote on the president's own tax and fiscal cliff proposal. A majority leader Reid blocked that vote. What it tells you is that this president has a long way to go before he can come up with a solution that can pass both the House and the Senate. I worry that he's already decided to take us off this fiscal cliff, to blame Republicans. It might be a short-term political victory, but it's terrible for the economy. I just think that's the wrong way to go.
All right, Senator Casey, you heard what Congressman Brady just said. You guys are lobbying back and forth at each other, these bills that obviously neither one of the Senate or the House is going to pass the other's bill. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think it makes sense to lay out some sort of idea that that's the way we're getting there. Senator, when you hear what Congressman Brady's saying, again, what do you think is the realistic way to actually find some sort of an agreement? And can you two, as the chair and vice chair of the JEC, can you two find any sort of consensus?
I think we can help on that. Kevin's a good friend, and he's a great vice chair of our committee. We work well together, and I think that kind of mutual respect is part of this. Look, I think there's too much coverage of the personalities of the president and the speaker and all that. That really doesn't matter. I think the key thing here is let's focus on priorities like growing the economy, focus on getting an agreement. We may not get all this done by the end of the year, but I think we can move forward.
What do the nuts and bolts look like? We know what the two proposals are in terms of 1.6 trillion in tax increases or 800 billion in tax increases. Do you find common ground at 1.2 billion?
Well, I'm not sure that.
Trillion?
Yeah, I don't think there's any broad agreement on even what the numbers are yet. We still have a ways to go. But look, if we focus on the damage, as this hearing will focus on today, the damage to our economy if the automatic cuts go into effect, I think we're going to be on the right track to understanding the gravity of that and the adverse economic impact, as well as the adverse impact of not having Democrats and Republicans come together. Kevin and I work well together. Maybe it can be a model for others.
But Congressman, I'm sorry, just real quickly. Congressman, you say that you are not in support of raising taxes because that doesn't solve the problem. You're not going to get any sort of agreement if that's your bottom line.
Well, bottom line is, what does it solve? It doesn't solve the deficit. It's about 8 days of federal spending. Certainly isn't good for the economy. I think the question is, Senator Casey made this point. It isn't exactly the number. It's how we get to that new revenue. We really believe that the key is to fix this broken tax code, to generate a stronger economy and the revenue that comes with it, in addition to authentic spending discipline, and we need to find a bipartisan solution to save Social Security and Medicare. I think Chairman Casey and I could work that out. We've got a long way to go.
Senator and Congressman, You've emphasized the importance of middle-income families and supporting job creation. One thing that Congress will have to decide here is the future of the payroll tax cut, which many of us believe has been an important support for economic growth over the last couple of years. Where do the two of you stand on continuing the payroll tax cut?
Larry, I introduced legislation yesterday which has two parts. One is to extend the payroll tax cut. I think it's been, as you and others have made clear, has been a big winner for everyone. In the past year, one of the best estimates, 400,000 jobs created or saved. We should continue that. In addition to, I think we should couple that with a tax credit for hiring for businesses. But I think the combined effect of that can have a substantially positive impact.
You know, I don't think if you're serious about saving Social Security, you can't continue the payroll tax holiday. It's blowing a hole in Social Security. We've had to borrow $165 billion last year just to pay Social Security benefits. You know, permanently or lengthening how long we divert the important revenue stream in that program just doesn't make sense. I think we ought to substitute tax relief as big or bigger, but through fundamental tax reform.
So, Congressman, the payroll tax increase.
I'm going to jump in there in a minute.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Senator.
I just wanted to jump in. Kevin and I disagree on this. The Social Security actuary, those who watch the trust fund, said this has no impact. Secondly, I think it has a positive impact because of payroll revenue.
Yeah, I have to say, I serve on the Social Security subcommittee. Trustees told us that we've deteriorated Social Security more in the last year than in 2 decades, so it is having a serious impact.
So, Congressman, can I just ask you, if the payroll tax is not continued, a family making $1,000 a week is going to see their paycheck go down by $20 on first paycheck of the new year. What are you supporting that would replace that could actually take effect in time to prevent those paychecks from going down?
You know, I would suggest either a refundable tax credit, a refund itself, or more importantly, fundamental tax reform. But the question is, does anyone really believe extending that payroll tax holiday is good policy for Social Security and good to make that program sustainable? Answer is no.
Gentlemen, we're going to leave it on that note, but Senator Casey, Congressman Brady, we appreciate your time today, and we appreciate the work that you're doing in Washington.
Thank you.
And coming up,
thanks so much.
Coming up, more from our guest host, former